When I find myself in times of trouble, Mary Berry comes to me, speaking her words of wisdom, let it be. Mary Berry was born to a well-to-do family in Bath in 1935. Her father was to become mayor of Bath. She had servants, she lived in a big house, she went to a private school, she kept her own horse. It's easy to think that her rise to fame and success must have been easy. But if it's the last 50 years to publish 70 books, to survive tragedy, to earn a CBE, you're going to need more about you than a knack with pastry. You're going to need staying power. You're going to need endurance. Hi, I'm Gabriel. This channel is all about the stories of some great people, where I make projects and search for that bit of wisdom that set these people apart. Check them out and leave me a comment. You could also like and subscribe to see more. Now, in early life, Mary Berry describes herself as something to be endured rather than enduring. She was slovenly, late, easily distracted, and writing out lines such as "empty vessels make the most noise," rather than simply doing her homework. But then polio struck. Aged just 13, Mary contracted the devastating disease. The condition attacked the nerves in her spinal column and in her brain, and muscle paralysis set in, which can lead to permanent paralysis or even death. Mary was placed in an isolation room for a month. And it took all her strength just to turn her head when her parents would come to see her and mouth things to her through the glass. And too ill to understand why they couldn't come and give her a hug, she just wept every visit. Polio was to leave Mary with a curved spine, a permanently weakened left side, and uncertain if she would ever bear children. But it also gave her a belief in her own ability to endure, a sense of the need to work hard. As she watched other children struggle and even die, she had to come to realise she was one of the lucky ones. Mary Berry's school results were disappointing. The only subject she had excelled in was domestic science, but she'd done so poorly everywhere else she couldn't even qualify to teach it. Her head teacher told her, "There isn't any career I can recommend to you, as you haven't passed enough exams to do anything." He told her parents her only option was a job looking after children, at which her father replied, "I pity the children." So how do you let it be? After her school and her parents wrote begging letters to Bath College, they agreed to take her on a course that she was unqualified to go on in order to teach her to become a caterer. But Mary Berry was hard-working and ambitious. She chose to fill all her spare time and holidays with unpaid work experience in butchers, in fishmongers, in hotels, bakers, everything to do with cooking. Even so, she remained poorly qualified and was glad after college to land a low-paid job with the electrical board in Bath. In the evenings, disappointed with her school results, she went back to college. Aged 22 and ready for a new adventure, Mary got a job inventing recipes in London. Her successes at work came slowly and only as a result of hard work and creativity. She convinced her employers to give her a month off to train at Cordon Bleu in Paris, and later she reluctantly and worriedly filled in for a colleague by writing a cookery article. She was sure she was too bad at writing to pull it off. But of course it was Mary's simple, clear writing style, using ordinary, humble ingredients and easy techniques, that enabled her to teach a nation how and what to bake. Determined both to make a living and to share her love of cooking with as many people as possible, she frequently worked 2 jobs. Mary married Paul Hunnings, aged 31, and she got married in a £5 wedding dress and had a homemade wedding cake. They saved all their money for a house, and after more than 50 years, as Mary says, thanks to working at it, they are still devoted to one another.
Nevertheless, their lives together were not always easy. Mary was born with 2 uteruses and further weakened by polio, and they suffered multiple miscarriages. They sought medical help, continued to work and grieve, and Mary was overjoyed when eventually they managed to have 3 healthy children.
The children, of course, proved to be just as mischievous and naughty as Mary herself. Yeah, that's slightly. But age 54, a moderate success, and with a few good cookbooks to her name, Mary was to show us all what real endurance and the ability to let it be really looks like. Her middle son, William, aged 19, came home on holiday and took their car and his little sister out to the shops. Driving too fast, he lost control and crashed. On that Saturday morning, a policeman came to Mary Berry's door and told her he was very sorry, but her son was dead and her daughter was in hospital. She went to tell her husband, and the police drove them to identify William's body. They were terrified that their daughter Annabel too might be lost. Thankfully, she was shaken but unharmed. Rather than collapse in their grief, that afternoon the family went to London to find their eldest son so that they might tell him in person and be together. Mary remembers how in the days that followed she found herself, as was their custom, in church for the Sunday service and saw on the wall a plaque that read, "In honoured memory of Frederick, William and George, sons of Alfred and Emma Busby. They voluntarily gave their services to their country in 1914 and died for her in 1917. Mary Berry says in her autobiography, "After seeing that memorial, I would never dream of asking, why me?" When Berry speaks of William today, she says, "We have William for 19 years, and he was just such fun, and we have great, great memories." She also says how lucky she is to have her 2 other children safe and well, and her husband to comfort her. It took Berry a year to care about cooking after then, but she decided that because of her love of Argus, she might invite people round and teach them how to cook with one. On these days, she filled her kitchen to bursting, gave demonstrations, gave out homemade shortbread, and gave everyone a taste of what it was like to gather round an oven, a good meal, and care about each other. Of course, soon after, Mary Berry's endurance was to pay off when the Great British Bake Off started, and it rocketed her to fame and fortune. She lunched with the Queen, she accepted award after award, and she became loved by all of us. But Mary never lost sight of what her real aim was: to teach ordinary people how to cook a good meal. She's now Dame Mary Berry, and it may have taken her till she was 85, but that really didn't matter. Mary Berry always had endurance. "If you're feeling a bit down," Mary said, "a bit of kneading helps."